Back in 1985, there were so many blockbusters. Back to the Future, The Goonies, Fletch. That year was packed and a lot of great movies just got buried. So now, 40 years later, it might be a great time to give those overlooked movies another chance. By the time Stick came out, Burt Reynolds was already a pro at playing these wisecracking tough guys with names that sounded like they came out of a comic book. Gator, Smokey, Sharky. He'd even shown he could direct. That's why it made sense for him to star in and direct the Elmore Leonard adaptation. Problem was, Universal didn't leave his version alone. Studio boss Sid Sheinberg stepped in, made huge changes, and the final cut wasn't the film Reynolds or Leonard wanted. Leonard actually disavowed the whole thing, and that publicity didn't help, especially since Reynolds' career was already cooling off by then. The cast was stacked. Candice Bergen, Charles Durning, George Segal. Sure, the final product is lumpy and uneven, but there's something fun about it. It's all tough guys, dangerous deals, and double crosses with enough style to make it worth tracking down. The 80s gave us better thrillers, but it also gave us a lot worse. Anthony Edwards never really got leading man treatment in the 80s, but he built up a string of interesting roles. He was the classic nerd in Revenge of the Nerds, then played Goose in Top Gun. Right in the middle, he did Gotcha, a Cold War action comedy about a college kid on vacation in Paris. Linda Fiorentino is the femme fatale who pulls him into a whole mess of spy games. The locations were great, the MacGuffins were ridiculous, and it all ties back to this paintball-style game the main character plays. Edwards and Fiorentino weren't big enough names to break out at the box office, especially with so many similar movies coming out at the time. Still, this isn't a throwaway. Pair it with something like Top Secret for a double feature, and you get a good snapshot of how Hollywood made Cold War paranoia feel silly and fun before Rocky ended it for good. Not every movie that wanted to be Alien could actually pull it off, especially in the mid-80s when practical effects reigned and small budgets forced a lot of creativity. Creature is a prime example. The effects team was fresh off Jaws 3D, not exactly a badge of honor, but that work actually landed them the Aliens job a year later. With only a $1 million budget, Creature couldn't deliver the spectacle, but it did bring a cold, creepy atmosphere. Klaus Kinski shows up as only he can and adds a kind of weird gravity that most movies like this just didn't have. This is the kind of film that would soon get pushed to video shelves, but at the time you could still catch it on the big screen. It makes you miss when even the B-grade Alien knockoffs had a shot at the multiplex. These days, Agatha Christie whodunits are back in style. Glass Onion's a franchise, Kenneth Branagh is doing Poirot, but there's still a lot to love in the older adaptations. Ordeal by Innocence, for example, features Donald Sutherland as a paleontologist who finds himself caught up in a murder case when he realizes he can prove his friend's innocence. The cast is loaded: Faye Dunaway, Christopher Plummer, Ian McShane. It's a lean 90 minutes, pure Christie, solid mystery, no wasted time. Released by Canon Films, the kings of 80s B-movie excess, it's a reminder of when even the lesser Christies had style. There's a certain charm here you don't get from modern reboots. Everyone remembers Short Circuit, but a year before Johnny 5, you had D.A.R.Y.L. The whole thing is classic 80s. Barrett Oliver plays this kid, D.A.R.Y.L, who just seems like another amnesia case, gets adopted by a suburban couple. The twist is he's actually a government-created robot, data analyzing robot youth life form. No memory of the lab, just thinks he's a normal kid until he starts showing off those convenient superhuman skills and the feds inevitably come knocking. There's not a single surprise anywhere in D.A.R.Y.L. You've seen every beat before. But honestly, if you miss those days when movies believed computers could solve absolutely anything and every climax ended with some government suit losing their mind, it totally scratches that itch. It's all nostalgia, no irony, and that's part of the charm. The Stuff is one of those movies that's a little too smart for its own good, but also completely unashamed of being ridiculous. On one hand, it's a wild satire about American consumer culture. People literally get addicted to eating this sweet white goop that's suddenly everywhere, and they lose their minds over it. On the other hand, if you don't care about any message, it's just a fun, weird horror flick about snack food that eats people from the inside out. It tanked at the box office, partly because the ads tried to hide the comedy, but it's loaded with great deadpan humor, weird cameos, and a plot that's halfway between Body Snatchers and a midnight junk food binge. It's one of those movies that didn't find its audience until way later. By the mid-'80s, the Western was on life support. Studios were still scared from Heaven's Gate wiping them out in 1980, but every now and then, someone took another shot. Silverado is the best of the bunch that nobody really noticed. If it hadn't landed the same summer as Back to the Future and Pale Rider, it might have made some noise. Instead, it just got steamrolled. The story's standard Western stuff, good guys, bad guys, some shootouts, town politics. But the cast is stacked. There's Kevin Kline, Kevin Costner, Danny Glover, Jeff Goldblum, John Cleese. It's not trying to reinvent anything, but it does everything right. If you ever want a reminder of what an old-school Western could look like with a little polish, this is the one. Joe Dante made this genuinely sweet sci-fi movie about three kids, Ethan Hawke and River Phoenix, both in their first roles, plus Jason Presson, who get the idea to build a spaceship from a dream about a circuit board. So they hit the junkyard, patch together a working ship, and take off into the unknown. Explorers had zero chance that summer with Back to the Future eating everything alive at the box office. But it's pure Joe Dante, goofy, a little bit scary, but with a real heart underneath. It feels like Stand By Me if the kids just decided to launch themselves into space instead of walking down the train tracks. Sometimes a movie's just out at the wrong time. You had Tom Hanks and John Candy coming off Splash, which was a monster hit the year before. That success set both of them up for a run of big projects, including Volunteers. Hanks plays Lawrence Bourne III, your classic spoiled Ivy Leaguer with a gambling problem so bad he has to switch places with his roommate and hop on a plane to Thailand, ending up in the Peace Corps building a bridge. John Candy shows up as Tom Tuttle, and Rita Wilson is there too, long before she and Hanks were ever married in real life. The movie throws all kinds of wild stuff at you. There's communist brainwashing, a violent local drug lord, and the usual arc where Hanks goes from rich idiot to halfway decent human being. Sure, some of the humor hasn't aged that well, that's the 80s for you. But if you're in the mood for a goofy comedy, it's a great showcase for Hanks and Candy at the start of their rise, and it's actually where Hanks and Wilson first clicked on screen. That alone makes it worth revisiting. Every decade gets a handful of fantasy epics, but only one put Michelle Pfeiffer and Rutger Hauer together as lovers cursed so they can never actually be together. Ladyhawke's setup is pure 80s weirdness. Pfeiffer turns into a hawk during the day, Hauer turns into a wolf at night, and they keep missing each other by hours. Matthew Broderick, fresh off War Games, plays the pickpocket who stumbles into their world. Richard Donner, the guy behind Superman and The Omen, directed it, so you know the vibe is all over the place. The marketing never really clicked for Warner Brothers. Pfeiffer and Broderick were both coming off big movies, but neither of them was the obvious choice for a medieval fantasy. The movie ended up as one of those uneven, oddly charming projects that probably couldn't get made today.